Two happy young men here with me, Mike Barilla, the quarterback, and Bill Berge, number 66. Boy, what an outstanding day both of you had. Mike, did you think you were going to do this well against that defense?
Well, we hope so. What we did really well against them, we ran the ball very well against them. Mike Hogan looked very good, and the key to it is on first down, if you make 5 or 6 yards and you're in second and 4 or 5, you can pretty much dictate what they're doing. And Bill Berge and his defense played super, and we got our first win.
I tell you, you have to be proud of the way the defense played today, Bill. They met every occasion that the Giants came at you. You rose to the occasion, made the big play defensively. Is this the best the defense has looked so far?
I think so by far. I'd love to have seen us hold them on fourth down in here in the end zone, but they're really a fine offensive team, and tackling Zonka, golly, I'm really tired. I'm really sucking wind right now. We're having a little fun behind us. But Zonka's like tackling a train. I'll tell you, he is really some kind of a competitor, and I'm glad he's back in the NFL, Sonny.
I tell you, I know that both of you want to get in the dressing room to celebrate. Any idea who the game balls are going to?
We know right now. We're going to give out one. We usually give out 3. And Dick Vermeil, he's taking a little heat around here, but he'll get it today, and we're all very happy for him.
I tell you, very proud of you. Great football game. I'm sure you all are happy to be on the scoreboard. 1-1. It doesn't look like 0-7 now, does it?
We needed a win. That's lost 7 in a row. We needed that. We needed that a lot.
Good luck to you the rest of the season. Now back up in the booth to Don Criqui.
All right, Sonny, things might be turning around here in Philadelphia as the Eagles come back to win this game. A very sound performance, beating the New York Giants 20-7. We'll be returning to Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia in just a moment. While we were reviewing those Eagle statistics earlier, they were most impressive. A very solid all-around offensive team effort. Great play by the offensive line, resulting in good gains per average carry by the backs. The Giants, to the contrary, did not have good out yardage at all. Zonka was their best with 38 yards and 10 carries. You look at some of the other numbers. Coder had 23 yards and 7 carries. Gordon Bell had 11 yards and 6 carries, and Marsh White gained 15 yards and 4 carries. So they talk about in this league the running game being the key to winning, and certainly the Eagles had the running game today. They controlled the ball, they controlled the offense, the clock. They won decisively for the first time under the new coach, Dick Vermeil. The final 20-7, and the Giants, who've been unable to run the ball, were good statistics in their first 2 games, added only 2.4 yards to carry last week at Washington, go down to their second defeat, and the road ahead of them is nothing less than horrendous with the Rams next week, and then the likes of the Vikings, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Dallas Cowboys. It's not humorous, and the St. Louis Cardinals coming up. It could turn into a long season for the Giants. This was a pivotal game today. They had to come back from a game they should have won last week at Washington, and as you saw, could not do it. The final score here at Philadelphia, the Eagles 20 and the Giants 7.
I have a happy young coach with me. Coach, I tell you, the first one feels good, doesn't it?
Oh, Sonny, it's a great feeling. For the squad, these guys have been labeled losers for many years, and one win doesn't make a season, and everyone knows that, but we had to get this first one, and they pulled together, and it's a great tribute to them.
Tell me something. You called the plays for Barilla the first time. Do you think that had any influence on the game?
Well, I don't really think it makes that much difference who calls the plays, though I do think it takes a lot of pressure off him. And Mike's a fine young quarterback. He can come up with a big play as he did today, and I think the players respect him, and I think it allows him to relax and play a little bit more.
You said you've come together as a group of people working together to improve individually. Do you think they've now gelled and come together as a football team?
Well, a win helps, you know, and what has amazed me is to see guys lose 7 straight and hang in there and keep finding hope and a reason to improve the next week. And a lot of guys would have jumped ship on me and on each other, and they haven't done that, and that's why they were able to win today.
I tell you, you really have to be proud of your football team. I thought they played a tremendous football game today, and thank you very much for stopping by, and good luck next week.
Thank you, Sonny. Nice to be with you.
Now back to Don Criqui in the booth.
All right, the Philadelphia Eagles and their victorious coach, Dick Vermeil. Now let's look at some highlights of today's action as we go back to CBS Control to Brent Musburger and Irv Cross.
We've got a couple of key baseball races that we're watching this afternoon on CBS. Pittsburgh 6, the Mets 5. That game is in the 6th inning. Chicago 1, Philadelphia 0. That game is in the bottom of the 7th inning. They began the day, of course, 4 games apart. And you all know the story about that particular contest. the Philadelphia Phillies squandered a 15-1/2 game lead. So shades of 1964, a lot of people are thinking, when the Philadelphia Phillies under Gene Mauch kicked away a 10-game lead against the St. Louis Cardinals in the last 12 days of the season. No one who was around who followed baseball will ever forget the way the Cardinals came thundering down the stretch in that particular duel. Irv Cross was probably playing for the Eagles along about that time. He'd left Northwestern University. And Irv, I don't want to remind you of what happened, but you know, when things start going bad for a team, it seems like everything goes bad, not only in baseball but also football.
No doubt about it. Of course, the Philadelphia Eagles had a real rough start in preseason, didn't win a single game, and finally today it looks like they're going to pick up their first win by right now leading the New York Giants by a score of 20-0 in the fourth quarter, Brent.
And Irv, of course, as you mentioned that game now with the Philadelphia Eagles against the Giants, let's turn our attention to the highlights. Why don't you take a look at it for us?
I got him here, and right off the bat, the Eagle defense comes on charge as Pete Lasitich drops Morton for a loss here, but Mike Barilla takes charge here, and remember Dick Vermeil's calling his signals from the sideline, hits Harold Carmichael for a big gain that sets up this next play. Barilla again looking for his biggest receiver on the field, Harold Carmichael, who reaches up 6'8", 8-inch frame for his touchdown pass here. The Eagles led very comfortably. Again, this time, Barilla just decides to go to Herb Lusk, a rookie running back who's been very effective the entire preseason. Takes the ball all the way down to the Giant 27-yard line, which sets up an eventual field goal by Horst Muhlman, who puts this one over from 44 yards out. And the Eagles, a 74 Brent lead in the fourth quarter, 20-0.
Irv, of course, you played for George Allen. You know what it's like to be a defensive back under him. And today, the Washington Redskins hosting the Seattle Seahawks down in RFK Stadium. Let's take a look at a turnover here by the Seahawks. Bolton is going to cough it up, and Jake Scott, who played a year ago with Miami, recovered it. Washington moved the ball down to the 5-yard line. Kilmer gave it to Mike Thomas, who went over for the touchdown for the Redskins. Then with a couple of minutes remaining in the half, Kilmer at the 12-yard line throws this pass to his new tight end, Gene Fugit. Now in the third quarter, 2nd and 10 at the 20-yard line, Jimmy Zorn, the Seattle quarterback, throws the long bomb. And where's number 13? Right there with a slick interception for the Washington Redskins. And he came back to the 47-yard line. Kilmer then was able to throw it again to Thomas in the end zone for a touchdown. The Redskins with complete charge of the ball game. Kilmer handing off to Thomas. And there's a fumble, and Ed Bradley, who's the middle linebacker, set up the score, and it was Testerman who got into the end zone with the touchdown. Atlanta, Detroit. That game, of course, the home opener for the Lions, and the Lions started rather slowly in that contest behind Joe Reed. The Falcons, meanwhile, got going as Bartkowski hit Al Jenkins right now. And that set up this touchdown by the rookie from Texas A&M, Bubba Bean. Landry then replaced Reed, and he was able to bring the Lions right back. And here he is scoring a touchdown on that option play. And, of course, Irv, as you know, he runs extremely well. What about Dallas, New Orleans?
Well, Dallas doesn't have any problem with the Saints down in the Superdome. They're leading at halftime by a score of 17-0. They've totally shut out the Saint offense. Of course, Roger Staubach is the key for the Dallas Cowboys. And right away, he goes to work looking for one of his favorite receivers, Preston on the outside here, Preston Pearson on the outside here, who makes the catch and takes the ball down to the Saint 40-yard line. Later in the second quarter, after a short drive to the Saint 15-yard line, Staubach this time heads off to Scott Laidlaw, who takes the ball in for a touchdown. He's been very impressive, by the way, this season. Staubach again electing to go to the air. This time looks for his tight end, Dupree, who's wide open, and rambles down to the 1-yard line, almost gets in, doesn't quite make it. He's down at the 1. Again, Staubach elects to go to Laidlaw again, keeping the ball on the ground. Laidlaw does the rest, taking the ball in from the 1. Touchdown, Dallas. They lead at halftime, 17-0.
Well, Irv, we have got the St. Louis Cardinals against the Green Bay Packers, and I think many of you know about the big trade that the Cardinals made with Atlanta when they picked up a defensive end by the name of John Zook. Well, here is Zook about to earn his keep. Dickey slammed from behind, and Zook is right there to recover that fumble on the 49. Jimmy Hart will then go to Ike Harris, who is number 84. Harris, of course, has replaced Earl Thomas, who was turned loose by Coach Coryell. And on this pass, the Cardinals will move down to the 18-yard line. Hard to believe, and it says something for the Packer defense, but the Cardinals cannot get in the end zone against the Packers. They've got to settle for field goals. Jim Bakken has kicked 4 of them, and the score at halftime is 12-0 right now. St. Louis ahead of Green Bay. And, Phyllis, a fourth quarter score, we have Houston 6 and Buffalo 3.
So that is the story from Philadelphia. The final score here, the Philadelphia Eagles beating the New York Giants 20-7. Their first win under new head coach Dick Vermeil. Now for Sonny Jurgensen, this is Don Criqui, thanking you for joining us.
Baseball race.
We do have some baseball scores. That National League East Division race stayed right where it was today, as both Philadelphia and Pittsburgh lost, leaving the Pirates 4 games behind. Dave Kingman hit his 36th and 37th home runs, and the Mets beat the Pirates 7-6. And Chicago shut out Philadelphia 1-0 for the Phillies' 19th loss in 25 games. Elsewhere, Cincinnati clinched at least a tie for the National League West title, beating San Francisco 5-2. Late word on the American Bicentennial Everest expedition is that the climbers who were hit by a snowstorm this week were able to reopen their route and then came down to base camp for a few days rest Friday. The American Embassy in Nepal says that the climbers report the weather is beginning to improve. Large avalanches were reported Wednesday between Camp 1 at 19,000 feet and 2 at 21,000 feet. The team of 10 men and 2 women, smallest ever to challenge the world's tallest mountain, hope to scale the summit later this month. You'll see a progress report on their efforts next Saturday on CBS Sports Spectacular. Brett, what about those highlights you mentioned?
Phyllis, that game between Cincinnati and Baltimore was better than advertised. Wait until you see the heroics coming up here of Burt Jones. Then it was Kenny Anderson of Cincinnati as this game seesawed back and forth. Baltimore on the board, 68-yard touchdown pass. Jones, Roger Carr, Colts lead it 7-0. Tommy Casanova, defensive back. Hey, how about that for a spike, huh? Casanova got the Bengals on the scoreboard. He intercepted this 3rd down pass by Jones. He went the distance, 30-yard touchdown, extra point tied at 7. Anderson then got Cincinnati ahead. 16-yard scoring pass to Bob Trumpy, who steps into the corner of the end zone, 14-7. Jones, though, came right back, and in slow motion, you can watch the protection he gets here. He wants his favorite receiver on this Sunday, Roger Carr, and this pulled Baltimore back to within 3. It's 17-14 Cincinnati. Kenny Anderson knocked out of the game. Stan White clotheslines him right here, and John Reeves comes in then to quarterback the Bengals. And again, it was that combination after this injury to Anderson that again got Baltimore ahead as they were inspired by Anderson being lost for the Bengals. Jones, 65 yards. Carr, 3rd touchdown of the day for Roger Carr. After the extra point, it's 21-20. Reeves, who had replaced Anderson, goes to Lindell Elliott, who just twists in for the touchdown. 27-21, Cincinnati ahead. Now watch this defensive effort. It's going to win the game. Freddie Cook with an interception. Roosevelt Leaks later scored, and it was 28-27. What a contest today. Irv, how about the highlights of the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants?
We had a major upset, really, in Philadelphia. The Eagles blanking the New York Giants, dominating the New York Giants by a score of 20-7. Mike Barilla started off right off the bat pretty hot for the day, but the defense also had a very good day. It's the very first effort we see here by Pete Lasicich dumping Craig Morton for a 7-yard loss. But Mike Barilla takes charge here at quarterback, hitting his long, lanky receiver Harold Carmichael for a 22-yard gain. The Eagles again maintaining control of the ball. This time, Barilla going again, once again, to 6'8" Harold Carmichael for a touchdown. The Eagles just continue to dominate the game all afternoon. Herb Lusker, rookie out of San Diego State, has been extremely effective all year long, all during the preseason. Takes the ball here now inside the 34-yard line, setting up a Horst Muhlman field goal. But the Giants tried to come back. 1st and 10 on the 21-yard line. Larry Zonka is hit here. There's a scramble for the ball, and Bill Bradley comes up with it, setting up another scoring opportunity for the Giants, for the Eagles. But Spike Jones here, after the Eagles couldn't move, punched the ball here to Jim Robinson, who can't handle it. The ball is muffed, and the Eagles take control on the 2-yard line. Vince Papale picked it up, and of course, from the goal line, Barilla goes in, and finally, Morton going to Walker Gillette for a touchdown. Too little, too late. The Eagles win it 20-7.
And now let's take a rundown of all the scoring around the league. Some of you heard some of these finals, but let's catch everybody up. There's the game that Irv Cross just talked about. Washington routs Seattle by a score of 31-7. Billy Kilmer completes 17 of 25 for 184 yards and 3 touchdowns. Detroit rallied behind Greg Landry and defeated Atlanta 24-10. It was Pittsburgh 31, Cleveland 14. The Browns led 14-0. Bradshaw 7 of 23, 77 yards, 2 touchdowns. Lynn Swan, who talked to Phyllis George earlier this week, did not play for the Steelers. O.J. Simpson was held to 41 yards with 17 carries as Buffalo loses to Houston 13-3. The big upset of the day, New England 30, Miami 14. What an afternoon for Steve Grogan, 16-27 for 166 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also ran 9 times for 76 yards and 1 touchdown. Tampa Bay still has not scored this year as they lose to San Diego 23-0. Dallas rolls to its second straight victory, beating New Orleans 24-6. St. Louis had no trouble at all with Green Bay. Packers can't move behind Lynn Dickey, at least not yet. It was 29-0. Then the game that you already saw the highlights of, the best contest so far, 28-27 Baltimore. And we have another score from the West Coast, Chicago leading San Francisco 14-5 in the second quarter. And the game, of course, that many of you are watching right now has Minnesota ahead of Los Angeles 3-0. And we have a score from Denver, the Broncos leading the New York Jets by a score of 16-3. And the NFL Today on CBS will continue right after this word from your local stations.
Del Vecchio.
Jimmy Zorn, who is quarterbacking the team under Jack Patera, tried to move the ball club right away, but Bolton is about to turn it over. And then afterwards, I think we are looking now at the Dallas Cowboys. That is right there is Drew Pearson catching the pass from Roger Staubach. This is not Seattle. This is Dallas now on the move in their contest against New Orleans. And there you see Laidlaw, who is off to a sensational start for Tom Landry, scoring the touchdown. Pearson goes in motion. Staubach now drops back, throws to the left side. Look how wide open his tight end Dupree was on that play. As Dupree crashes in, he was stopped on the 1. They didn't give him the touchdown on that play right there. And so back come the Cowboys, and they bolt right up the middle. Laidlaw again for his second score behind the right side of that Dallas Cowboy line. And so right now, let's take a look at the Cleveland-Pittsburgh highlights. As soon as they get queued up, I'll tell you, we work this videotape room over something awful on a Sunday afternoon. You can't believe what we do to them down there. But oh, do they produce for us in a situation like this. And you're going to watch the Pittsburgh Steelers now come from behind. The Cleveland Browns got ahead. Now remember Brian Sipe quarterbacking the Browns today because of the injury to Mike Phipps. And here they are in action with Pruitt on a little bit of delay right up the middle now to the 14-yard line. Sipe is going to throw his first touchdown pass of the day, 14 yards to Reggie Rucker. This is the 4th scoring pass that Rucker has caught so far this season. Then, right after that, Sipe got Cleveland ahead 14-0. This time it was Oscar Rohn, the tight end. Look how wide open he is. What a coverage mistake by the Steelers. But back came the world champions. 12 yards to Stallworth. Remember, they're without Lynn Swan. Look at this step into the end zone. Then it was 14-7. Big Frank O'Hara has gained more than 100 yards again this afternoon. And there he was, bolting 17-14. Bradshaw from the 5. Watch Stallworth again. Still another score. And we're not done with Terry Bradshaw right now. 7 yards for the touchdown. 31-14 is the final in that particular game. And, of course, we're at halftime of a 3-0 contest. Some of you may have come in to listen to Pat Summerall and Tommy Brookshire a little late. And that score, again, is 3-0. Now, right now, standing by, let's take a look at how they got their 3 points as we have the field goal on an intercepted pass, as I understand it, by Matt Blair that you'll see right here. Pat Hayden is going to be intercepted, and watch the lateral coming up right after this. There it is to Jeff Wright, who has played a fine first half. Now they drive down the field. They can't get the touchdown. Fred Cox kicks the field goal, and that's where it is right now, 3-0. How about Chicago and San Francisco? The vastly improved Chicago Bears out in San Francisco. The 49ers, of course, beat Green Bay last week. Chicago, meanwhile, opened up with a victory over Detroit. On the 49ers 38, Bobby Avellini goes to Roland Harper, his fullback, who teams up with Walter Payton in that backfield, who gets down to the 20-yard line. Now it's 1st and 10, and here is Walter Payton rolling off a stop and getting in for a touchdown. It's a bad tackle there by San Francisco. Ball now to Bear 27, 2nd and 16. Jimmy Plunkett will go to Mitchell, a tough tight end, who gets down to the 10-yard line, and it's set up a 21-yard field goal by Mike Mickemeyer. Second quarter, same contest. And bare ball on the 3, 1st and 10. Peyton is hit by Tommy Hart for a safety in that contest, and right now it is 14-5. And Pat Summerall has told you about a guest out in their booth.
Yeah, series is taken right out of Jim Bouton's book, Ball 4. Jim Bouton is a pitcher for the New York Yankees, and should be an interesting series. It's going to have a lot of inside things about sports, and it's a series about baseball, but things are very similar in football, I found out.
All right, now that's going to be Wednesday night at 8:30 Eastern Time, 7:30 Central Time, Ball 4, huh?
Right, on CBS.
On CBS. And you're Rhino. Are you a nice guy, or are you sort of wild and erratic a little bit?
I'm not very bright. It's typecasting, you know. I've always played the big dumb football player, and now I'm the big dumb baseball player.
Actually, that's not true at all. Ben Davidson was a great football player, finished 14 years. We most remember him with the Oakland Raiders, but now it's Ball 4, 8:30 on Wednesday night.